Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast, the podcast all about living and studying at Lund University in Sweden. Hear from current students, alumni, researchers, professors, and many more special guests as we dive into life at one of Sweden and Europe's top universities. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer at the Division of Communication. Today, we're talking about one of the most exciting parts of student life at Lund University, going on an exchange and selecting your exchange destination. How do you choose the right destination? What factors really matter, like language, culture, academics, food, and location? We'll hear from Lund University students who've studied abroad around the world, sharing how they picked their destination, what surprised them most, and what advice they'd give to anyone dreaming about an exchange semester. So, whether you're already planning your next adventure or just starting to explore your options, prepare yourself for insights, stories, and inspiration from students who've been there. But before we get started, we want to clarify that applying for exchange studies as a Lund University student is a completely different process from applying for an international degree program via universityadmissions.se. But today, we're focusing on exchange studies and all the amazing destinations available. And with us, we have 3 Lund University students. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Bianca. I'm from Sweden and I study business. And I'm an international student ambassador.
And my name is Sara. I study engineering mathematics at LTH, the engineering faculty.
And I'm Emmie. I am also from Sweden, and I'm enrolled in the Master in International Human Rights Law. And I am, just as Bianca, working as an international student ambassador.
Welcome back onto the pod as well, Emmie.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to have you back. And nice to have the two of you here for the first time.
Yeah.
So, first of all, where and when did you go on an exchange? And what made that destination stand out for you? Starting with you, Emmie.
Well, I went to New Zealand, to the University of Auckland, and I was there in the spring semester of 2024, so that was a bit ago.
And I went to Buenos Aires in Argentina. I left in June 2024, so last year, and I came back in July this year.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I went to National University of Singapore in Singapore in the autumn term 2024.
Brilliant. So we have like a very global perspective here.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first impression when you arrived?
It was very, very warm. But also I felt very comfortable there. But it was a bit overwhelming. So I don't really remember exactly what I thought when I arrived, but it was exciting to be there at least.
Yeah, for me too. It was exciting to be there. Like, I didn't know what to expect, I think. And also, like, with the weather, because I left Sweden in June and then I came there and it was like the same temperature when I got there and it was their winter, which was kind of surprising. And then I thought, okay, this is the winter. It's going to be super warm all the time. But then it got super cold also. So they have these like days with super warm and then it's super cold. That surprised me. I think I thought like, oh, I'm going to the south of South America and it's going to be super warm all the time.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
No.
Yeah. New Zealand, well, I arrived in New Zealand about a month before my exchange started, and I went on a road trip from the south to the north, so I'd already like seen a lot of the country by the time I settled down for my exchange. And I just remember it being so beautiful, but also quite the nature is very different in different places in New Zealand. So a lot of impressions and a lot of beauty, and then settling down into a city was maybe not what I wanted most at that time. I wanted to keep exploring the mountains and all that, but Auckland is also quite nice. That was my first impression, and the people are very nice.
And I really want to hear about your exchanges as well. But first, how did you go about choosing your exchange destination, and what were your priorities or deal breakers?
My top priority was that it was far away because I didn't want to go somewhere that I could easily go by myself. I wanted to go to a country far away that is very culturally different. So I only applied we didn't have a lot of options, but I only applied in Asia and also to Australia and Canada. nothing in Europe. So that was my top priority.
And my top priority was the Spanish. I've always liked learning Spanish. And I think from like the second year of my studies here, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to be in South America for 1 year? But no, that's going to be too difficult. Like I would study everything in Spanish. That's going to be so hard. But then I kind of like, I kept thinking this, and I knew there was one girl studying the exactly same program as I did who was in Buenos Aires. She did 1 semester, but then I contacted her and she was like super positive, like, yeah, of course you can do this. So that's where I got the inspiration to apply. I really wanted to learn Spanish.
That's cool. I was more like, I want to be in a place where I know the language and I can communicate easily with the local people, which is why I went for English-speaking countries. Would probably not make the same decision now, but that was my top priority, along with like extraordinary nature that you couldn't really find back home. And I also, as Bianca said, I wanted to go as far away as possible. And New Zealand is literally on the other side of the world. So that's where I ended up. Yeah.
So when you were researching destinations, were there any other factors that influenced your decision? Language, you already mentioned, perhaps academics, culture?
For me, because I had finished my bachelor part of the law program, so I was looking at courses that would be more specialized than in the master's level, but for topics I was interested in where maybe Lund University couldn't offer the same opportunities. So I looked for climate change law, I looked for international security, so more topics where other universities might have had like a higher expertise. And the University of Auckland did have that. Which was lucky, but I might have gone there anyways. I don't quite know, but it was definitely part of the decision. Yeah.
That didn't go into my decision-making process at all. I don't know. I didn't look at like courses or different universities. I just wanted to go to a cool place. So it's really interesting that you researched a lot before.
I think I looked a bit at the courses just to be sure, like, okay, I would have some courses that are like relevant for my degree, but it was more like the language thing, but also security, I think, because when, I don't know, at least for me, growing up in Sweden, when someone says South America, like there is okay, isn't that a dangerous place? That's like comes up. So that was the thing I asked this girl who was in Buenos Aires about. But then I think that was also, I chose between Buenos Aires, Valparaiso in Chile, and Bogota in Colombia. And I think when I really wanted to go to Colombia, to Bogota, but when I like said it maybe to my parents or to other people, and they were like, oh, that sounds so scary. I think that scared me away a bit. Now I know a girl who's been there, and like I visited her traveling, and it was very, very nice. I think I would have loved it there. I would have got to know the city. But I think that scared me away a little bit from there, but I still had the courage to go to Buenos Aires. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm really glad you brought that up. And it was a safe experience for you?
Yeah, for me it was. And I think like the first week I was like, okay, I'm all alone in this big city on the other side of the world. And that was very scary. But then you kind of, I don't know, you get to know the city, you walk a bit longer distances, you go on the buses, you try the subway, you hear from people where you can go and where you cannot. And I think being there 1 year for me, because I was away 1 year, that made me like got to know the city. And
that's really interesting. I think in some ways you have that experience no matter where you go, where the first week is really scary, and then you start to learn your surroundings and you get to know the city and the place you're in, and also like what areas you maybe are drawn to more and stuff like that. And that's something with Auckland for me. It was a much more alive city than I had expected. They had a lot of festivals in the beginning because it was summer for them when I arrived in February. And that kind of made it seem more community-based and more active and alive than maybe Lund is oftentimes if you don't know where to look for the specific activities you're interested in.
Bianca, I'm going to assume that Singapore was pretty safe.
Yeah, it's very safe. They have very strict laws, so I always felt safe walking around alone at night. So it was very nice for me, but also I think nice for my parents. But I went so far away that I'm going to like a very safe country. So yeah, that was actually very nice. I felt very comfortable from the start.
Happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Were there any other practical aspects which influenced your decision? For example, the budget, housing options, or anything along those lines?
I think New Zealand is quite expensive, especially housing is very expensive. So when I got there, I had already been backpacking for 5 months. And during that time, I was supposed to find accommodation and stuff, but I knew that it would be possible. And the university offered guaranteed housing. So even though it was more expensive, I knew I would have somewhere to stay. But I also know of people who lived in like a hostel for a few weeks in the beginning and then found something when they actually arrived. So maybe housing isn't a practical consideration for everyone when they apply, but it might be good to think about.
Yeah, when it comes to housing, for me, I had gotten the recommendation to find something when I was there already. Because I think in Buenos Aires, I've heard like there can be a lot of scams online because it's such a big city and I don't know, Europe is so far away. Yeah. Like they know a lot of internationals want to go there. I don't know. They have a lot of scams, I think, online. So there are a lot of people staying 1 month in Airbnbs when they get there. So they have something. Yeah. I personally stayed at a hostel for 2 weeks because I wanted the social part. I felt like it's going to be, I don't know, I'm going to be lonely in an Airbnb. I want to meet people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting with the scam thing because I didn't get scammed, but it was something I considered when getting housing because I lived in an apartment with 5 roommates, and it was kind of scary to like send a deposit when you're on the other side of the world and haven't seen the apartment know if it's real. But I used a like realtor that my friend had recommended to like make sure like it's a real person. I know it. So that was like a good tip to like avoid that, but it's also more expensive to use a realtor than other options. But for me, travel opportunities really influenced my decision because Singapore is in the like smack dab in the middle of Southeast Asia. Yeah. So it's very close to a lot of fun countries. And I've never been to Asia before I went. So I really wanted to like travel a lot. Yeah. So it was that was like a big part of why I want to go there.
Where did you travel to?
Oh, a lot of places. I went to Japan because I thought it was a lot closer than it was. But yes, it's a 7-hour flight or 6, I think. No, it's not. I went to Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, I traveled a lot. I stayed for a month after school was done and traveled, celebrated Christmas in Indonesia.
I was just about to say, you almost did my entire 5-month backpacking trip or more than that in that month. That's intense. Yeah. I was also thinking about travel opportunities when I applied for exchange. For some reason, I also thought New Zealand was less far away from things than it is. But I did manage to go to Australia, and I think just traveling the country itself is also such a great opportunity. So even if you go somewhere that is not as close to other countries, there is a lot to experience in the country itself as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, travel also influenced I also didn't know Argentina was as big as it is. It's the 8th biggest country in the world. But I didn't travel too much during the semester, but I had my summer break. So I had a summer break from like Christmas to the 1st of March. And then I crossed to Chile and went to Colombia. And that was really, really fun because I love dancing. So that's also a reason I went to South America. Yeah.
And did you consider how easy it would be to adapt socially and culturally to your new environment?
With New Zealand, I've been in like English-speaking cultures before. I lived in London for a while after graduating high school and stuff. So I knew that the language barrier isn't really there, which makes it, in my head, it would make it easier to like talk to locals and experience more local culture and everything. And it's not that different from Sweden, even though there are differences. And that was an assumption I had before I applied. And it is also something that was confirmed when I was there. But as an exchange student, it can also be quite difficult, I think, to interact with local people. At least I found that where I went, it was more of a exchange students interacting with other international students.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
It was, I think it was, I didn't really find it hard to adapt socially because firstly, in Singapore, English is the first language or one of the main languages. So everyone speaks English. So it was easy to talk to locals and stuff. And I think Singapore is quite similar to Sweden culturally, more socially maybe, because I felt like Singaporeans were a bit introverted in the beginning, but then opened up, kind of like Swedish people do.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, it was a bit harder, but I didn't really find it hard. But I agree with the thing about often exchange students interact more with other international people than with the locals, because I think maybe it has to do with they already have their friends and stuff, and I'm gonna live in a few months, so why? Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you concerned about the culture?
I think, honestly, I didn't think about it too much before going. I just went.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But one thing I was determined about was that I really wanted to get to know locals, because I wanted to speak Spanish, and the ones I had talked to that had done an exchange in South America before, they all said the same that you guys are saying, internationals, they stay together and then you speak English. And I was like, damn, I don't want to do that. I want to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And that I think made it a bit hard in the beginning to get to know people, because the first people that you meet, they speak English because they are also exchange students.
And when you actually arrived and during your exchange, were your expectations fulfilled, surpassed, or did you have a completely different experience?
I didn't have a lot of expectations before, I think, because I didn't know a lot about Singapore before applying. But before I went, I researched a bit and read up on the history and stuff, because it's a pretty new country. They haven't been independent for that long. But I researched some before, but I didn't have a lot of expectations on how it was going to be to live there. So I think maybe I was very pleasantly surprised, at least, I would say. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations, I think. I just went. Also, one thing, actually, because if you've studied some Spanish, you say you say tú. But in Argentina, they say vos. And I didn't know that. So I was so confused when I said hi to someone and said hello, what's your name? And she's like, Julieta vos. And I thought, Julieta vos, that's her name.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, Julieta vos. And then I was like, okay, Julieta, and then her last name is Vos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. She was asking what your name was.
Yeah. She was asking, and your name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't read so much before going.
That's fine. I think I had a lot of preconceptions in my head, some based on research and some based from being in other places. But I thought it would be a lot easier to engage with the local cultures and customs and kind of integrate into the society a bit more. And that's probably where my expectations were maybe not met fully. But I also think there's a huge benefit in going somewhere with less expectations, because obviously then you are pleasantly surprised, like Bianca, instead of being a little disappointed potentially. Yeah.
And perhaps the most important question, what did you learn about yourself by living and studying in a different country?
That's a hard question. I feel like I got a lot more comfortable with myself, knowing I can move to the other side of the world and I'm going to be fine. I feel like it made me realize that I'm capable of that. So it was fun.
Yeah. And I think I also got to know myself better, and kind of when you change contexts, you experience and you find new aspects to your personality that you maybe didn't find back home before. And I think that's one of my main takeaways and one of the main things I learned. But also obviously that it's possible to adapt to other cultures and live in different contexts. And that is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think I learned I'm more sociable than I am at home, or what I knew about before.
Yeah.
And that was very fun.
Yeah.
And also, like, I got so much confidence. Like, I went from, oh no, I can't go to Colombia, to going there by myself for 5 weeks. And yeah,
It's really cool.
so a lot of confidence.
And looking back, is there anything you would do differently when you were choosing a destination?
I have a very big thing for this one because even when I arrived in New Zealand and was supposed to start studying, even though I thought I made a very good choice and everything, and I was quite comfortable with it, I came there after having backpacked in Asia for 5 months, being in very different contexts with very different cultures. I kind of wished that I would have chosen a country or like a destination that was less similar to Sweden in the European context, like going to a university in Africa or in Asia somewhere. I couldn't do South America because I don't know any Spanish, but that would have been on my list if I had any Spanish. Because I think going on an exchange is such a great opportunity to kind of experience a different context in a safe way, because you have all the support systems around you with the university. You have a natural context where you can find people to hang out with that is different to just traveling there to work there, for example, for a few months. And I think that would have benefited me and the person I was at the time better.
That's a really interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I think. I don't think I would do anything differently because I was very happy with how it turned out. So I can't really.
No. I think the only thing I would do differently is to get more information about like my other choices too. Because I kind of went for Buenos Aires and I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah.
But I also had Chile and Colombia. And I would try to see if I could find someone that had been there, that have done what I wanted to do there, just to like get their perspective. And because I think that makes it easier to do the choice if you're a bit nervous or afraid to like have this person in front of you that has done it before.
Yeah. That's very true. And you can. That's the good thing. Like we have so many travel reports online. There are like 4,500 different travel reports from different students over the past 5 years that are available for anyone to read on the website. And you can also find those. Sometimes we have people from South America and like all the different continents on Lund University Abroad, the Instagram account, where we have guest grammars on every week from different places. So I think that's a very, connecting with people who have been where you want to go is a very good piece of advice.
Yeah. And also when I went to these gatherings where people talked about their exchange, and there were no one from South America there. But when I said to them, when they asked me like, oh, where do you want to go? And I said, oh, maybe South America. They said like, oh, my friend's friend is there and her name is this. And then I got their like Facebook and I could write to them. So like, even though you don't find exactly the destination you want, you can still like find that person through a bit of searching. Yeah,
that's very true.
So what's your best piece of advice for someone who's just starting out their dream about choosing their exchange destination?
Just go for it. I mean, there are so many reasons that people can think of why not to go on exchange. It would delay their graduation, for example, or it would be expensive potentially. But there are solutions to all of these issues. Like there are additional stipends and scholarships you can find. If you travel within Europe, there's the Erasmus Plus scholarship also. So even if finances might seem like the biggest hurdle for you, there are solutions for that. And not all exchanges have to be super expensive. I mean, a lot of destinations in Asia, for example, living costs are very low. So you can even go to your dream destination probably, even if the financial hurdle may seem high. I think that's my best advice probably for it. It doesn't have to be impossible. It can be possible.
I think my best piece of advice would be to just write up your top priorities and then pick the country you want to go to according to that. For me, it was travel opportunities, culture, and language, I think. And then from that, you can just narrow it down, because sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. There are a lot of options and maybe you don't know a lot about the countries that are available. So yeah, that would be it.
I think that's a very good piece of advice. I also want to say, because I have a hearing loss, I'm hard of hearing. And that was something I thought about going. Like, I know all of the things I have a right to in Sweden, how it is studying here. Like I have a right to ask the professor to wear a microphone, like all these things. But I didn't know how that would be in another country, on another continent. But you can ask like the university, you can ask the coordinators. You can also, there are some stories on the Instagram with people with, from people with disabilities. So it's possible. You just maybe have to ask some more questions.
There is a lot of support to get.
There is.
The university has websites on this also.
Yes.
So it's possible to find online.
Yeah. And you've worked out very well.
That's awesome.
So is there anything else you would like to mention?
I think, like Emmie said, just go for it. Because I don't think you're going to regret going on an exchange.
And like an exchange is so much more than just going somewhere else to study. It's definitely an opportunity to explore yourself and get to know yourself and the world better.
Yeah.
And well, who knows? Maybe your perspective will completely change and you want to spend the rest of your life abroad, and or you bring what you learned back home, and that's also really great.
Yeah, go for it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And you can connect with our amazing student ambassadors on Unibuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.